Hello everybody, it is May 5th, 2012, Dr. Alan Rudolph bringing you our video newsletter for May. Today we're going to be talking primarily about the brain and brain function, especially with the news of Junior Seau over this past week who had committed suicide, and they're potentially linking that to the fact that he had suffered from a long chronic brain injury due to all the concussions that he had suffered during his career. So we're going to take a look at brain and brain function. Why we need to look at the brain? Well, your brain is involved in everything that you do. Basically, how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you interact with other people, how you are as a parent, how your children are as children, how you are as a teacher or as a student. All these things are intricately connected to how healthy your brain is. When your brain works right, you work right. But when your brain doesn't work right, you can't work right. The brain is the most complex organ in your body. It has over 100 billion neurons, which then equates that they figure each of those neurons is connected with other neurons to the degree that there's over 1 quadrillion connections in your brain. Now that's a 1 with 15 zeros behind it. And they accumulate or figure that's about the same number of stars that we have in our known universe, and you have those number of connections just within your head. Your brain takes up about 2 to 3% of your body mass, but it burns about 20 to 30% of the calories that you consume. About 25% of your blood flow goes up into your brain. So it is using by far and by large the largest amount of energy and materials and nutrients and resources of any other organ in your body. However, your brain is very soft. It's basically about the consistency of butter at room temperature. And the inside part of your skull, the inner wall, is very hard and has very sharp ridges to it. So if you are consistently having head injuries or head traumas or blows to the head, you are pushing this very soft, consistent, buttery type of mass known as your brain up against these sharp edges, and chronically over time, as you keep doing this, you can develop brain traumas and to specific areas, which can lead to issues or problems later on in life. Because essentially all of our functions are designated into certain areas of the brain. Now the brain needs to interact, and it's always talking with other areas, but certain areas do certain jobs, and if those areas are injured or traumatized or they just don't work well, neither do you. So you lose access to those functions. It's kind of like you have a toolbox up in your brain, and each end in each drawer is a certain function that you are able to do. Unfortunately, for some people, the doors get slammed shut, or in other instances, like with children, they never are able to gain access to the drawers. So the tools are inside there, but because they don't have access, they have to try and adapt themselves to try and do something different, and it's just not as efficient or as effective as what's naturally supposed to happen. Now, problems in certain areas of the brain can associate with different problems, such as learning issues or behavioral or emotional problems. And once again, a lot of times it doesn't get tracked back to the fact that you may have had a brain injury or a brain trauma that has led to that issue that you're having right at that time. The cool thing that we know that is the brain can change. Right interventions will help the brain to heal. Wrong interventions can make it get worse. So the nice thing, once again, is your brain is continually making new connections. It's how do we promote the brain to make the connections that are going to promote your health versus having those connections that are potentially making things worse. So it's really important to make sure that you're doing the proper exercises and activations and things that will help to make your brain healthier. Also, from a nutrient standpoint, making sure that you get the proper nutrients and vitamins and minerals and all those components that would help get your brain to heal and to be as healthy as it can be as well. Otherwise, you run into where, once again, you have these long-term issues with people where they're accumulating damage over time. And so it's hard to pick up on those scenarios because there's no test for that. As far as, if there's something wrong with somebody's heart, you can go do an EKG and check to see what's going on with their heart. Or if they think something's going on with somebody's liver, they can do liver enzyme tests and blood tests to determine whether they're seeing some damage that's being done to that organ. For the longest time, either with brain issues, it was subjective. Psychiatrists and psychologists would go and ask questions, and then based on the answers from that person, they would try and decide what areas of the brain wouldn't be functioning well. Well, now in today's world, because of something called functional MRIs or SPECT scans, you can actually take a look and see functionally what areas of the brain are working good, which areas of the brain aren't working so good, and be able to determine what strategies and interactions would be the best to help that individual person with the areas that aren't working for them. Otherwise, if you try and do a holistic approach on the brain, you get all the areas that potentially change, and you're not getting specific towards the one that needs to be changed. A great resource to read or look up this would be Dr. Daniel Amen. Last name is spelled A-M-E-N. You can Google him. He's got his own website. He's been doing SPECT scans for the last 10, 15 years now, and has accumulated over 30,000 different images of people's brains. And he's seen over the years that when a person comes in that has a specific diagnosis, let's say they have obsessive compulsive disorder, everyone that he's seen that has obsessive compulsive disorder has very similar brain scans, and when he does specific treatments to help with that area of the brain that's not working, their obsessive compulsive disorder gets better. And so once again, Dr. Daniel Amen is his name. He's a child psychiatrist out in California. I've had the opportunity to attend some seminars and take his classes, and have learned a lot of the brain interaction things and from his experiences. So it's been very good to see that, and to see that the times are changing, where which is good, because we see a lot. Junior Seau wasn't the only NFL player that suffered from long-term traumatic brain traumas from concussions. We also have soldiers coming back from Afghanistan, Iraq, and other military campaigns where they're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, now we're seeing that through brain scans from what they believe from just the concussion of having gunfire nearby, that can cause traumatic brain injuries, and over time can lead to a lot of the issues that these military men and women are having when they come back from their campaigns, wherever they may be. So I guess to wrap things up here, remember that of all the organs in your system, your brain is by far and by large the most important, complex, vital organ that makes you be able to be the best you can be. So do your best to learn, gain resources, take care of that thing that makes you to be able to be the best you that you can be.